Welcome back. All right, so some news of the day for all you fine people for your Thursday, September the 28th. Starting off with the Winnipeg Jets. So, some good news and some bad news. The good news being that Nick Ehlers is at practice today. He is in a non contact jersey. They're trying to ease him back into the lineup. They, of course, need a healthy Nick Ehlers this year. That goes without saying. Ehlers can be a solid 30 goal scoring forward when he's healthy. But the bad news, of course, was last night, Perfetti ends up leaving the game on a head hit from Pospisil, which got him thrown out of the game, and Bonus said after it was a cheap shot. Nothing from player safety at this point. I don't know that anything's coming from player safety. There have been a few incidents already this preseason that I thought, I wonder if anything's going to happen. Nothing has to this point. So for the Winnipeg Jets, of course, the hope will be that Perfetti's not out for very long. It didn't look good, though. It was a hit to the head. And so hopefully he's not out that long. Hopefully it's not a concussion, but I have a feeling it probably is going to be a concussion. So that's the good and the bad news for the Jets. Keep in mind that today is the start of waivers. So players can be placed on waivers by their NHL teams. That starts at 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, which is just about an hour and a half from now. And Elliot Friedman is saying that Spencer Martin could be one of the first ones to go on waivers. Of course, goaltender for the Vancouver Canucks. But there is still talks of whether or not he might be traded to the Avs. Now, if Colorado were to pick up Spencer Martin, honestly, they might be better off waiting until after he's waived. So I've talked about this before. So Spencer Martin gets waived and nobody claims him, right? You then trade for him as the Avalanche, because then you can send him to the minors within 30 days and you don't need to waive him again. Whereas if they picked him up on waivers, that means if they then tried to send him to the minors at any point in time, they have to put him on waivers again. And it doesn't sound like Francouz is going to be out that long to start the season. So if the plan is to pick up Martin, I honestly think it might be better to wait until he's gone through the waivers process, because again, I don't think anybody takes Spencer Martin on waivers, but we'll see what happens. Conor Bedard makes his preseason debut tonight. A lot of hype, of course, around this Bedard kid, and he was on a line with Hall and Donato at the morning skate. So if you want to pick up somebody in fantasy who might have a quiet, really good season, Ryan Donato may be the guy. If Donato ends up on that fourth line, or on that first line, I should say, with Hall and Bedard, he's going to get points by being there. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes for Chicago tonight. But of course, this is not going to be their final lineup or anything either. But Donato getting a shot at showing he can hang on that line. With Bedard, it really is, you've got to be a fast player, smart player, and just get to the right part of the ice. Bedard had 71 goals and 72 assists last year for Regina. The guy knows how to generate offense. John Klingberg left the game between the Leafs and the Sabres last night. That happened in the first period. He's going to be evaluated today. Undisclosed injury by the Leafs, which is standard, right? Undisclosed, or upper body, lower body, or just in the physical area. So for Klingberg, of course, adding him to the blue line, they're trying him on the first power play unit, moving Riley to the second power play unit. For all the hubbub I've seen about the Leafs power play, I think it makes sense to make sure that your first and second units both have a really good point man on them. So to me, it makes sense to have Klingberg on the first unit, Riley on the second unit. I've seen all the talk about 5 forwards on your power play. That's the way to go. I still think that just to out of concern for the amount of shorthanded goals against that we could start to see in the NHL, which are exciting, but as a coach, I think you'd want to have at least a defenseman on the ice. But that's just me. I know, positionless hockey. I know, I've seen it. But hopefully Klingberg's not out for very long. And as expected yesterday, after signing the contract, Michael Backlund named captain. So the way this seems to have gone down is simple. They wanted to name Backlund captain, but they wanted to make sure he was sticking around first. And then once he signs the extension, he officially becomes the captain. Backlund, of course, signing that 2-year deal worth $4.5 million per season. And, all the best to Backlund on this season coming up. And maybe this will help to smooth things over a little bit with Lindholm and Hanifin and make it a little easier to negotiate with them, seeing Backlund sticking around. I think there's been a lot of doom and gloom around both the Flames and the Jets this summer, and I think a lot of it's been manufactured. I have done my best not to fall down into that rabbit hole for either team, and just to be as even keel about it as possible. As long as the players are there, they're there, and until they leave, they're there. So, anyways, we'll see what happens with the other pending UFAs for the Calgary Flames. Mason Shaw is skating. He has had his 4th knee reconstruction. Now, there's been talk about him returning to the Minnesota Wild, and that, well, if he signs, he'll sign with the Wild. But at this point in time, he doesn't have an AHL or an NHL contract. And my guess is that after coming out of a 4th knee reconstruction surgery, and he's not that old, there has to be some concern if you're a general manager about foot speed, about his ability to play the game at this stage. So you're going to want to see him up to 100% and good to go. Similar to what Patrick Kane's doing, except it feels like Patrick Kane is deciding not to sign until he's healthy rather than teams won't sign him until he's healthy. I think Kane would have had a contract in July if he had wanted one, but he wanted to wait until he was 100% healthy. So sad news, and the reason for the Flames jersey is that Assistant General Manager Chris Snow, his wife stating that they have concluded he is not going to wake up. So he is an organ donor, so she's talking about how, there's some good that can come out of this just tragic situation. But there's a GoFundMe that started for his young family. And it's currently, at the time I'm recording this, has raised $12,584 of the $100,000 goal, which, considering a young wife and kids, there's a lot of money that's going to be needed by them over the next little while here. And you want to take as much stress away from them as possible during their grief. So I will leave a link for the GoFundMe in the description to this video. If you can do, whether it's $5, $10, whatever it is, everything helps. But my condolences to Chris Snow's family. And it is one of those things that I continually say, and I say it again. Life is a gift that we have. And it behooves us to enjoy it while we can and to make the most of it. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.